Good morning. You are listening to First Title National Real Estate Radio Show. I am your host, Doug Dennison, and we are broadcasting from beautiful St. Augustine, Florida, the nation's oldest city, at WFOY 1240 AM studios. Through the power of the internet, this program is being streamed worldwide on 1240news.com. The show will also be archived on FirstTitleServices.com and TitleCompany.com. First Title is a leading national title agency and are the sponsors of this program. Additionally, this show will be posted on YouTube.com. Our radio show mission statement: to provide an educational experience for listeners in a promotional format for real estate sales across the country. We're going to be talking about real estate, different real estate markets across the country. We've got a lot of topics today. Help us out. We've got a couple people calling in. One from Massachusetts in the Boston area. Give us his perspective of that area, and the other in Florida, but works nationwide, and looking forward to hearing about that. Our guests are VIPs in the real estate business, and we're thrilled to have them on. Our listeners are a mixture of real estate brokers, real estate investors, real estate media, government officials, banking officials, bankruptcy officials, and also the general public. And so when we talk to our guests, we try to basically get all that information out to you so you can hear about it, learn from it, and be able to contact them if you'd like to speak to them. We've got a couple interesting things today. I wanted to talk to you again about the fact that a couple weeks ago, believe it or not, one of our guests was telling me that they were calling somebody from Switzerland, and because they're a client, and the client was saying, "Hey, I heard you on 1240news.com on that radio show," and that's pretty impressive. Switzerland is listening, and hopefully you are too out there, throughout the country, throughout the world. Good morning. You're on the air.
Morning, Doug. This is Lewis.
Well, Lewis, how are you doing, sir?
Fine. How are you today?
Well, wonderful, wonderful. Tell us who you are and where you're from and what you do, Lewis.
Well, my name is Lewis Fisher, and I run the national platform, or I should say I am the champion or ambassador for Sperry Van Ness Auction Services, which is a nationally recognized commercial real estate brand that has augmented and integrated into their traditional brokerage a auction services platform, and I have been involved with them since November of 2001, and I live in the beautiful city, as you, of St. Augustine, Florida.
It is a beautiful city, and we're very lucky to enjoy the lifestyle that this area affords. I have been, and again, you and I have worked together for, my gosh, 15, 20 years, and it's been a thrill for me to kind of work with you. We did a lot of government work, and that's not just financial institutions, that's not just government, FDIC type of things. One of the things that you have a specialty in is bankruptcy auctions. So can you give us just a little bit on what happens, and then I want to hear about your two recent success stories, one in Maryland and one in Colorado. But we have the general public, a various range of knowledge from real estate people, but most people do not know the bankruptcy structure, the bankruptcy core, and what goes on. So give us a summary of that, if you would.
Sure, I'd be happy to. The United States Federal Bankruptcy Court was formed just shortly after the Great Depression.
Okay.
And I think what most people perceive the bankruptcy court's duty as is to protect collateral that someone has a secured interest in. In other words, a bank financially stressed and challenged, and typically would enter into a bankruptcy filing, normally a Chapter 11, designed to specifically try to reorganize their structured debt. But the bankruptcy court has been formed specifically not for the secured creditor, but for the unsecured creditor. The unsecured creditor normally is the little guy that might have performed work on that asset or that collateral, and just not having the, I guess, experience to know that they need to file a mechanics lien in order to get paid, those kind of things. And there's all kinds of unsecured creditors depending on the case and the complexity of a case. But the bankruptcy court sits there to adjudicate and to provide structure and reorganization or exit strategy. And here again, it's designed to protect, to the degree that it's able to, the unsecured creditor. Certainly the secured creditor is first and foremost, but also to the little guy who's sitting out there and really doesn't know how they're going to get paid for what they've done.
Okay. Let's go to some real life auctions that you've recently done. You did one in Maryland, which was a bankruptcy auction. Kind of give us the story on that, if you would.
Yeah, it was a very nice operating retail center in the eastern shore of Maryland, specifically Salisbury, Maryland, where they have it's a college town, Salisbury State. One of our very dear friends, Bernie Moyle,
sure,
is an alumni and graduate from there. This center, this retail center, was anchored by Outbacks. It had Talbot's as a tenant and some very, very nice, nationally recognized triple net lease tenant that retail investors like to see. The person who was the debtor, or the person who entered into bankruptcy under a Chapter 11, which typically means the debtor in possession, had some inefficiencies with operating, et cetera, and so the lender was beginning to foreclose on the loan and to acquire the asset through state court. And the debtor entered into a Chapter 11 filing, which basically then trumps the state court. Federal court is bankruptcy. State court handles foreclosures. So in this particular case, there was a trustee appointed for the benefit of all creditors. So the trustee came in, hired a property management firm, stabilized the asset relative to making sure that the rents were collected, making sure that any deferred maintenance was addressed, things of that nature, preserving the asset until the lender, the primary lender, which was a special servicer, C3, being the one who serviced that particular loan for the lender, decided they wanted to do an auction. And so we were solicited among three other firms, national firms, to submit our RFP. And the way that we approach our RFP is to use our bankruptcy background, specifically under the 363 code, that enables a property to be sold free and clear of all liens, and those liens attached to whatever proceeds the sale generates. And so we entered in January. We were appointed by the court, and we started our marketing plan, and that worked very effectively and well. We tied up with a Sperry Van Ness broker there in the Salisbury, Maryland area, who was very deep in experience there and very well known. And the end of the day, on March the 26th, we had to having the live auction in court, and we had 9 qualified bidders who had posted the $200,000 and showed proof of funds to close. 4 of them were in attendance in the court, where I conducted the sale with my partner, Dave Gilmore, and 5 attended by our internet bidding platform. And the sale started at 4.2, which was the highest initial offer we had received, and it escalated to a sale price of $5,925,000, which represented a 7.7 cap on existing income.
So you actually did the auction inside the bankruptcy courthouse?
I did it inside the actual judge's chambers.
Judge's chambers.
Presiding judge over this case. That is correct. Wow.
Okay. And they allowed the fact that there was not only bidders coming in, but also internet bidding, and that has kind of been new to me. So I'm very interested in that. Tell us a little bit about that, because I know that you go into those courtrooms and there's a lot of security and a lot of people looking at you, making sure you're doing everything right, and to be able to bring in a computer is a pretty big deal based on my past.
Well, you first have to start with the clerk of the court, who then has to work with the GSA, because the GSA normally is the property manager for any government building in the United States.
Okay.
So getting permission usually is challenging depending on who makes application for the request. In this particular case, the trustee, who's a court official, and then we, by way of being appointed by application, are also a court official. And so because we made requests 30 days ahead of time, it gave us the time to work out the nuances about what you're talking about, the security, how we get cleared through there.
Sure.
But today, the technology is so advanced, Doug.
Yep.
I mean, literally, the camera is about 1.5 inches in diameter, and it just sits on top of a laptop that Dave opens up. And, we had basically, we had two ways to access the Internet. We had it through the court, and we also brought our card that allows us to hook into the Internet. And it worked very effectively. As a matter of fact, the backup bidder was not present in court. They were at $5,900,000, and they were bidding by the Internet from a level of about 4.6 in $50,000 increments all the way till we concluded the sale.
Well, that sounds like a home run. Tell us about the recent Colorado one. You go all across the country, and Sperry Van Ness has offices and advisors all across the country. Great firm. But tell us about Colorado Bankruptcy Auction.
Yeah, so Colorado Bankruptcy Auction. Here again, I have had the privilege, Doug, of working in about a third of the districts in the country. And so this particular sale emanated from an advertisement that the debtor responded to, just in general, about our services.
Mm-hmm.
And here again, we were solicited for an RFP, and we wrote and responded after doing our on-site evaluation analysis, and were selected here again by the debtor and approved by the court. And we ended up doing the exact same structure as we did in Maryland, where it's actually a two-tier process. We structure these sales because the bankruptcy court likes to have at least an idea of where what's the threshold, what's the worst case scenario. And they usually do that through what's called a stalking horse. A stalking horse bidder is someone who comes forward and says, I will pay X, I will pay all cash,
okay,
and I will close for that number. As a matter of fact, I will put money up hard in escrow, and I will allow you, whoever is in charge, the debtor or the trustee,
mm-hmm,
to go and do your marketing. And if someone outbids me, I have one of two things to do. I have two choices. I can either increase my bid if I elect to do so and compete to the level that I want to and even acquire it, or I don't have to bid at all. And for bringing that about, meaning the worst case scenario, they are paid, if they get outbid, what's called a breakout fee.
mm-hmm.
And that breakout fee is negotiated. It can be in a percentage or it can be a flat fee. We went down the path of trying to get a stalking horse in place for this one in Colorado, and we had an objection by the second secured creditor, and so we backed up and punted, and we went down the road just like we did in Maryland, where our structure is that in order to be a qualified bidder recognized by the court, a person by a certain date must submit to the debtor's counsel,
mm-hmm,
a certified cashier check or wire transfer for $200,000,
okay,
a financial statement, or some form of proof that you have the liquidity and the ability to close the transaction at whatever level.
okay.
Number 3, you must fill out your initial bid, which is an irrevocable offer at whatever price point you wish to put in there, realizing that you cannot alter that contract, and that must be a document that's submitted simultaneously or in advance of the deposit. And you have to sign an affidavit as to whether you are or you are not an affiliate of the debtor or the management company who's operating that asset that we are in charge of disposing of. And there's other documents that you may have to submit as well. That has to be fully completed. It has to be submitted on a certain date, at which time we, with the debtor's counsel, typically will open those, and we will go through there for compliance purposes to make sure that everything is dotted and everything is crossed, and we will then make a decision as to who and who is not a qualified bidder. Now, the overall objective is to have as many bidders as possible, so it's very rare that we disqualify as long as someone has followed the process as I've outlined.
Right.
And then at the live auction, we start the bidding literally at the highest one who's been submitted previously by that date that I just mentioned. And it enables the court to do a couple of things. It enables to predict, number one, how many are going to be interested in bidding and at what level they're interested in bidding. So it enables the court to have a little bit more of a clear picture of the final outcome. And normally we find that, it works very well. It's a streamlined process. It fits very nicely within the 363 code, which is a federal code. And we find that, the buyers might not be as happy about that process, but at the same time, when you're looking at an asset and paying 3.6 or 5.9 or 10 million or whatever the case may be,
right,
you have to realize that there is structure, particularly in court-related cases.
Well, I always kind of thought, and again, I've been in the auction business not quite as long as you, but for about 20 years, and I always thought bankruptcy auctions, not as many people knew about them and were a little afraid of them compared to the regular sale process or the regular auction process even. And therefore, I always thought it was a great opportunity for investor, because maybe they just wouldn't have the amount of competitive bidding, and so that they could get a deal. And so I always try to push investors who, were thinking about, where's my best deal, because that's what they're looking for. They're looking for, good return and a bargain. And I think bankruptcy auctions are a place to go and get involved. You don't always win, but there's value there and a good opportunity for investors. How can people get a hold of you and Sperry Van Ness and find out about all these auctions that are happening, and maybe even contacting you if they would like to utilize your services, Louis?
Well, the easiest way, of course, is today is electronically, and that can be either by visiting our website, which is www.svnauctions.com,
okay,
or my email is Fisher, F-I-S-H-E-R, no C, the letter L, at svn.com. As to the interest level, Doug, that you mentioned about an investor, the unique thing about the bankruptcy process is that it enables an investor to be able to buy the asset free and clear. In other words, if the debt stack exceeds the amount that is generated for the sale, it can still close free and clear. So you're not buying it with any liens. It's like taking a dirty white shirt from playing in football and putting it in the washing machine with Clorox and pulling it out white. It cleanses title like nothing else that you're able to do.
Well, very good. And one point I want to make: are real estate brokers available to talk to their potential buyers and actually get a piece of the pie? Can they participate?
Yes, they can. In the one we did in March in Maryland,
yeah,
there was a 1.5% buy side fee. So a broker represented the buyer and was paid 1.5% of that $5,925,000 purchase price at closing. And last week in Colorado, the winning bidder had a broker who is going to earn 2% of that $3.6 million number that we were able to achieve in court on that particular asset.
So this is like value added if you're a real estate broker out there. You've got people that are looking for buys and for bargains and for select properties. If you're a real estate broker and can get your head about what's happening in bankruptcy auctions and government auctions, I think this is a great service to your buyers, and you're going to get paid if your buyer buys. So a win-win for real estate brokers out there. And I don't think that they know that. I think the general public or the broker doesn't really know that there's this great opportunity for them.
Well, and that, here again, it tends to fly under the radar.
Yep.
But with the commercial mortgage-backed securities that are coming due, when a lender pushes on a borrower to put additional capital down because the appraised value comes maybe below their percentage threshold of loan to value, then there's an issue of what the borrower is going to do. And a lot of these borrowers have operating businesses, operating assets. It's just that through all of this commercial mortgage-backed securities, when they were originated 5 or 7 years ago, the values were different than they are today. So the bankruptcy court allows that to sort of be reorganized, restructured through a very, very specified sale process. And so it's a, in my opinion, I obviously like it, and
right.
I'm certainly, biased, but, the state court, we work a lot for receivers, but state court is different. There's a lot of similarities in bankruptcy. Bankruptcy is federal, and that's the thing, is being able to understand that 363 code as an investor.
Tell us a little bit about Sperry Van Ness, big company. Tell us a little background and where they're located across the country.
1,400 advisors.
Wow.
150 major markets, coast to coast. The company was founded in 1987. It is literally the only commercial real estate franchise brokerage firm, investment brokerage firm, that has a spirit of collaboration and cooperation. By that, what I mean is there is a core policy that every franchisee abides by, and that is to share their commission equally with the buy side, whereas in commercial real estate, that is not done. In residential, it is. You see where MLS is used, the listing agent gets paid and the buy side agent gets paid. In commercial, most of the time, the commercial agents double in the deal. And Sperry Van Ness has sort of penetrated that space, one of the top 10 recognized commercial real estate brands in the country, and on some cutting edge of a lot of different things. They were the first commercial real estate industry to actually integrate and augment the auction services platform within their brand.
Well, I think that is a big differentiator. Basically, it's better for the client if you, as a real estate broker, as soon as you get that listing, tell the world about it, rather than let me look and see if I've got any buyers, in my hip pocket, and then I'll tell my friends next door, and then I'll get it out to the company, and then we'll put it out to the rest of the world. And you always want to bring as many people up to snuff as far as what the possibility and the opportunity is, and you want to do it as quick as possible, because the quicker the better.
Well, there's not one brand who knows every buyer in the world. And
Are you sure? Are you sure? I've talked to them. I think they do believe they know every buyer.
There's a lot of them that say that and claim that, but it's literally impossible. And so, I think that if you look at the transactions within Sperry Van Ness, literally every, I would say 95, 97% have a buy-side broker, and more than half are with other agencies or other brands outside of Sperry Van Ness. So it's a very unique thing that Sperry Van Ness has plowed into the commercial real estate space, and it's been well received. I mean, a lot of brokers like working with us, and we like working with them because, quite frankly, we can't know the various markets specifically when you're working nationally like we do. We have to rely on the brokerage in the brokerage community.
Well, I'm just very pleased that you were able to take time to be on the show. Just, I know you're very shy, so I can do this for you. You have sold more than $1 billion worth of real estate through the auction process, including 13 federal bankruptcy court districts, FDIC in probably 8 different offices, the RTC in probably 9 different offices, FSLIC, Fannie Mae, the Farmers Home Administration, the Department of Defense, the Small Business Administration, General Services Administration, U.S. Marshal Services, City of Miami, City of Northport, City of Miami Beach, Sarasota, Broward County, and the state of Michigan. So you are an expert in the field, and people should really contact you if they're looking for the best auctioneer. You're in Florida. You've been a Florida champion auctioneer 3 times. Tell us once again how people can get a hold of you, Louis.
The best way, Doug, is by email, and that's Fisher, F-I-S-H-E-R, the letter L, at svn.com, or visit our website, which is svn.com, or our svnauctions.com. And you talk about all of that about the government. I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. You and I have done some very strategic things in the government together, and I have always cherished those times when we work together.
Well, buddy, thank you so much for being on the show. You have a wonderful weekend.
You do the same. Thank you, Doug.
Bye-bye. All right. That was Louis Fisher from Sperry Van Ness Auction House, and a great interview, as always. Really an expert in that field. Folks, I want to thank everybody for calling in, and we will be back next week. Take care.